Hey everybody, it is me, Vincent, and I'm coming to you from Universal Studios Japan. After 2 amazing days here, I have done what all big theme park fans like to do when they visit a park they've never visited before, which is compare it to a place that they have. And in particular, I found a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences with Universal Studios Florida and Universal Studios Japan. So in this video, I want to take you guys through the entire park and share with you guys those differences, those similarities, things that exist in both, and things that you can only find here in Japan. So welcome to another episode of Vincent Vision. Watcha! Our adventure starts here at the entrance of the park, which is simply known as Hollywood. This whole area here is meant to step you into the glitz and glamour of Hollywood, and this is kind of a bigger area of the park. This is the entrance. Something that is really unique is this guy right above me. Not many Universal parks have a roller coaster flying above the entrance, and that is one of the first things you see as you enter Universal Studios Japan. This covered entryway is really cool as well. This does not exist at Universal Studios Florida. At Universal Studios Florida, you are entering Production Central. It's more like you're entering the movie studio, versus here at Universal Japan, you're entering the world of Hollywood. And this park still has some backstage, behind the scenes kind of elements to it, but this area is more focused on the glitz and glamour. So the whole entrance area itself, the majority of these buildings aren't copycats of buildings at Universal Studios Florida. The only one that is the Universal Studios store, the gift shop. This is the Beverly Wilshire, which exists at Universal Studios Hollywood. They've moved it over to the front of the park, but the rest of this entrance area is all unique to USJ. But what we're gonna do from here is I'm gonna actually bring you down to like the proper Hollywood street. If you were walking down Universal Studios Florida's entrance and you took a right, it would lead you into the Hollywood area. It is the exact same over here at USJ. And this street has a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences as well. I'm gonna say that a lot in this video, just be ready for that. Now, going through this video, I kind of want to like balance between little small details and bigger ones. If I did every single thing that was different compared to Universal Studios Florida, which I'm very familiar with, you would get an hour-and-a-half long video, which actually would be pretty enjoyable actually for some people. But like, for example, like this building in Universal Studios Florida is called Marianne's, and here in Japan it's called Adrian's. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. I want to focus on things that are going to be a lot more instantly noticeable. Like, for example, the fact that there is no Jason Bourne show here. This is where you would go to do the Jason Bourne show over in Hollywood in Universal Studios Florida. Here, it's just a facade. You are getting a little bit of a switch though, because this is normally a facade in Universal Studios Florida. This is an entrance to a ride. You saw that big roller coaster that flew over us? That is actually Hollywood Dream, and that is this ride right over here. And what's really unique about this ride is it actually has 2 different versions of it, where you can do the standard front-facing roller coaster and then the backdrop, which is a whole roller coaster train that's actually in reverse. Pretty crazy. And you can even see it here, just looking at all the buildings here. There are already some pretty noticeable similarities between the 2 Hollywood sections of Universal's. Brown Derby, which is normally a seasonal store at Universal Studios Florida, is It's So Fluffy, which is a Minion shop here in Hollywood. Schwab's Pharmacy is such an iconic facade here at Universal Studios Florida. This is a shop that sells desserts, ice cream, milkshakes. Here at USJ, it does the exact same thing. It actually sells Mario and Luigi themed drinks and desserts. Here at USJ, this is the Garden Court Apartments. I mentioned the Beverly Hills Wilshire, the hotel from Pretty Women, got moved over to the front of USJ. Normally in Hollywood, this is where it would be. And it's just a facade at Universal Studios Florida, but here in USJ, it's actually the exit to the Hollywood Dream roller coaster. This street here has a lot of recognizable facades. It's actually one giant shop all connected together that sells the most popular franchises here at Universal Japan. Minions, Mario, and of course, Sanrio, Hello Kitty. All Hello Kitty in there. And what is a Universal Studios without a Mel's Drive-In? I think all the Universals around the world have some version of the Mel's Drive-In. This one here is pretty identical to the one in Universal Studios Florida. Though, if you might look in the background, you might notice something missing. No Transformers here, no giant Optimus Prime. I'll show you later what takes its place. Over here, this is where the horror makeup show would normally be. Now it is the Universal Monsters Rock and Roll Show. This is a big indoor show, live action with the monsters. Oh, check this out. Yeah, that's Hollywood Dream flying through the Hollywood facade. I love this roller coaster. We need this at Universal Studios Florida. You know, something else I don't really hear a lot about is this Roses of Fame walkway near the Hollywood area. This kind of leads you out by the water. And this is a walkway that takes you from the Hollywood area to Amity. That is really a pleasant kind of alternate path. And this rose garden area of the park, which feels a lot like the Central Park in Universal Studios Florida, gets you this very cool view of Hollywood Dream. Here it comes. Woo! Let's follow that roller coaster. So cool. Moving from Hollywood over to this area of the park, this would actually normally be Minion Land at Universal Studios Florida, but here in Japan, it's just part of their entrance. This is stage 22, and from the looks of it, it just seems to be a regular building. But what's next to stage 22 is probably one of the biggest and coolest changes here at USJ. Normally, this area of the park is where the gigantic Hollywood Rip Ride rocket would be, standing 160 feet tall. Here at USJ, this is home to Space Fantasy, or more specifically right now, the Demon Slayer XR roller coaster. This is a virtual reality roller coaster. You wear goggles and you're going through on a high-speed ride. We did this earlier in the day and it was awesome. It was so cool. One of the coolest rides here at the park. We're not super familiar with the Demon Slayer anime, but we said, hey, you know what? Let's give it a shot. This is a big ride here. It's a big deal. We loved it. This is like such an awesome experience, and it is uniquely Universal Japan. They'll use this indoor Space Fantasy roller coaster as an overlay for different rides throughout the years. So this has been a Final Fantasy roller coaster. This has been a roller coaster based off the Ring for Halloween time. And this is, I think, the maybe second or third time that they've done something based off Demon Slayer, which is an incredibly popular anime. I'll tell you what though, this Space Fantasy, this Demon Slayer roller coaster makes me want to watch this anime. And if it wasn't 110 minutes like it is the entire day, I would definitely want to ride this thing again and again. Now, the biggest area of Universal Japan is just like Universal Studios Florida. It is the New York section of the park. This area is a really great example of the similar but different vibe that you get here at USJ. I'll give you a little quiz. You see something different already? Even where I'm standing here talking, behind me is this giant flat area. It's actually a big stage where they do a whole bunch of shows throughout the year here. Right now they're getting ready for their Christmas show. I don't know what that's gonna be like, but they have a big Halloween Horror Nights show here. They've done a big Pokemon show here at this space. This is also a really great area to lay down and relax like Ellison is doing while I film this video. One of the more noticeable differences of the New York section of the park. But let's go walk through the streets and see what else we can see. What I really like that we don't get at Universal Studios Florida is that these facades will have plaques referencing the movie that it's from. This one here, I've never seen Winter's Kill. I wouldn't be familiar with Cerruti's office, but this is actually right over here, what would normally be part of the Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon facade. It's a building called Versailles. This street here is pretty different. As you can see, all these buildings are laid out differently. That is because here in USJ, there is no Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. Instead, there is the Detective Conan 4D show. I think this is actually the first permanent anime-based show or attraction at USJ. This area right here is where normally the NBC shop for the Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon would be, and the ride entrance would be right next door. Right over here. What's normally the Metropolis Globe at USF, it's actually the gift shop for the Detective Conan ride. I'm walking into the gift shop now, and what you're looking at is the exit of the Detective Conan show. And this here is actually where their Terminator 2 ride used to be. This is where they used to have the 3D show. Now it's Detective Conan. Something that's pretty different right now is this is the Paradise Theater. This is what's normally the Revenge of the Mummy over in Orlando. But right now, here in Japan, it's not really anything. This just recently was The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man. I think it closed at the beginning of this year, early 2024. Now it is getting turned over to a new ride. Who knows what? They do this really great thing where the construction tarps pretty much look exactly like the buildings. It's to not like disrupt the skyline. Based off these pictures, they look pretty much the exact same. They even have the Safari Outfitters, which I think is the Sahara Traders in Universal Studios Florida because of the Mummy ride. Still, pretty cool to see, and hopefully I'll come back whenever this is a new experience. Normally the Palace Theater is an extension of the Mummy gift shop where you can go into the arcade. Here in Japan, just another facade. What's been tripping me out the most about these parks is this is like basically the same building where I'd say, hey, I want one Auntie Anne's pretzel, but here it's just a facade with a bunch of candies inside and cigars. Here in Orlando, this is the Ireland shop. This is a store with all Irish apparel, even some Finnegan's gear. Here at USJ, this becomes 42nd Street Studio, and this is actually a place where you can get in line and take a picture with either Snoopy or the Minions with a photographer from the park. I couldn't compare New York areas without showing you Sting Alley. The good news is they have it here as well, and honestly, it looks pretty identical. The only difference is like the paint. It's a little fresher, the bricks are a little darker, but yeah, they have Sting Alley here just like they do over in Universal Studios Florida. The only slight difference is though that once you exit Sting Alley, it actually leads you to this area, which I don't know if it's like this all the time, but they're calling it a Christmas market, and they have a bunch of different food booths over here where you can get some unique food offerings, like a fried chicken cone with tartar sauce and mashed potatoes. Looks kind of good though. And let's not forget the cheese fondue hot dog with caramel and butter. This is one I'm maybe not as interested in as the chicken cone. Now, something I think is really cool is that they also have Finnegan's, and just like in Florida, it is a sit-down restaurant, and it seems to be pretty popular, but let's go inside and take a look. This is the inside of their Finnegan's restaurant, which is totally different. Decorated for Christmas right now. It is so pretty in here. Actually, different but similar. The bar is at the same place, though this bar looks a little nicer, a little more put together, and they've actually kind of like used this area for more tables. They have the dining room back over there. This New York section of the park has a lot of buildings that are laid out the same, like the structure of the building's the same, but the inside is totally different. And honestly, kind of a better use of space for the restaurant. Here in Japan, it's just a regular old building facade, but does anyone know what this is in Universal Studios Florida? You are correct, it's the Christmas shop. Honestly, what kind of sparked the idea for this video was seeing these three buildings in a Universal Japan video and just seeing like, oh, these are the exact same buildings as Florida. And here they are. It's the Empire Hotel, the Universal Trust, and the Hudson Street Home for Girls, just like in Florida. This corner of the New York section is super popular for Starbucks. Unfortunately, here in Japan, there is no Starbucks in the park, but there is a Costa Coffee snack cart that sells craft coffee, which I think I'm actually gonna get in line for. Something you need to prepare for whenever you choose to visit Universal Studios Japan is that lines are everywhere and always long. But if something has a line, that usually means it's pretty good. Now this is a pretty big change, but where normally Transformers the Ride 3D would be standing with the big old statue of Optimus, you've actually got two pretty different experiences. The first one is Sing on tour. This is actually a live action show where the characters from Sing come out and sing. And can I show you what the other thing is that's in this area as well? You are seeing that correctly. That is a live J-pop band led by one of the Sanrio characters, Mai Karomi. This is so cute, so kawaii, as they'd say. This is a really fun show. I'm actually kind of enjoying watching this. I'm gonna go keep watching. Now, normally when you're heading from New York towards the San Francisco area at Universal Studios Florida, you have the entrance to the best ride in the park, Fast and Furious Supercharged. Here at USJ, they've actually done something a little more impressive, if you could believe it or not. And this corner of the park is actually Minion Park. This is their Minion Land, and let me tell you guys, this is amazing. Why isn't the Minion Land at Universal Studios Florida like this? The street goes all the way down to the end. There's a giant Minion themed shop you can go through. There are a bunch of places to get snacks. There's carnival games. There's a small ride, and the big ride at the end of the street is Despicable Me Minion Mayhem. This is their Minion ride here, and it's actually based off of the Simpsons ride technology. This area here is super colorful, super vibrant. All the windows have things to look at. They're super interactive. This Minion Park is amazing. It is so, so cool, and is a really, really good use of space. Over here, for example, they actually have the Bank of Evil. You can go to this ATM right over here. Press 2 for English. I will do that. Enter account number. 666. Select my transaction. I would like to make a withdrawal from the savings. I'm thinking, yeah, let's go all the way. Withdrawal denied. What? User's not evil enough. Oh gosh. Both USF and USJ also have San Francisco. This is an area of the park where, like in Orlando, there aren't really any rides in this immediate area, and it looks, honestly, at a first glance, pretty identical to its Florida counterpart. But there are some really fun differences in this area, where there are places that don't exist at Universal Florida and some buildings that don't exist in Universal Japan. A big landmark of the San Francisco area is, of course, the Ghirardelli building, though I don't think here, or maybe it is actually, there's a thing right over there that says Ghirardelli. Right now it's under refurbishment. It's under this big tarp that looks like the Ghirardelli building, but I don't know if it actually serves any functional purpose in Universal Studios Japan. Richter's Burgers is a very popular spot for food at Universal Studios Florida. Here in Japan, it is the seating area for the Happiness Cafe. The inside is completely different. There's more seating on the second level, tons of tables to sit and eat your Minion burgers. In Orlando, this building is one of the most popular spots to get a drink. It is Chez Alcatraz, but here in Japan, this is the Wharf Cafe. It's closed during the time that we're visiting. I think normally this is a place to get drinks, maybe? I don't know, I haven't really seen much alcohol in the park. Something that is missing from this area is Jaws, because, well, here at USJ, there's a whole Amity Village with a Jaws ride, and the shark is hanging at the entrance of the ride. Now this area, we're starting to see some pretty big differences in San Francisco. This corner at Universal Studios Florida doesn't really have anything, it's just a facade. But here at Universal Studios Japan, we are seeing the Dragon's Pearl, and this is a sit-down Chinese restaurant. And what would normally be the exit area for the Fast and Furious ride is a seating area with a Chinese-themed quick service San Francisco snack food booth right over here, complete with a place to sit. Very, very cool, and a much better use of space in my opinion. The Buena Vista is a facade here in Japan, and Universal has the exact same facade with the exception of a big snack cart right in front of it. Unfortunately, right now it's closed for refurbishment. I can't go inside and show you, but this is a sit-down restaurant just like its counterpart in Florida. So in Universal Studios Florida, over at USF, the Western Brickworks, this is a building where you can take pictures with amazing photos. Here at Universal Japan, it's just a regular facade. But what's different is, instead of going from San Francisco to London, you are instead heading from San Francisco to Jurassic Park. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Or more specifically, welcome to the back of Universal Studios Japan. This area here, this is kind of like where the Men in Black ride would be over at Universal Studios Florida. This is where they have their Jurassic Park. You gotta remember, there aren't two parks here at USJ, it's just one big park. So you really are kind of getting a mix of everything. And Jurassic Park being one of the most popular Universal movies, of course it's gotta have a land here. Now, there is one big difference that this one has compared to any other version of Jurassic Park, and it is the fact that there are a lot more nets in this land up above you. The reason is because the flying dinosaur roller coaster soars above the entire land here. This roller coaster is a flying roller coaster where you kind of sit Superman style and you go through the entire Jurassic Park land. It goes upside down, it's got big drops. This is Universal Japan's mega coaster. This is like their biggest, most intense roller coaster. I rode this yesterday. This is one of the most intense roller coasters that I have been on. And it really does fly around the entire land. Just as you're walking through this Jurassic Park area, this is all you see here. They also have the Jurassic Park River Adventure, or rather, Jurassic Park The Ride. Unfortunately, during our visit, it's actually been closed for refurbishment, so I couldn't get to experience the ride itself. The best I could do is kind of just see the ride building from a distance. They have a Jurassic Outfitters shop, where inside of the shop they have a big animatronic Velociraptor, and then they have the Discovery Restaurant here, which is meant to be like the Discovery Center. You go inside, it has the big skeleton T-Rex, and it's got some really amazing views of USJ. But this land here overall, very similar, but pretty different as well. It's a little bit smaller as well. Like you can see the other entrance from one side. Something we don't have at Islands of Adventure is a dinosaur encounter like this, where the raptors come up to you. There's a Triceratops all the way back over there. Look at that thing, gigantic. And they used to have a baby Triceratops at Islands of Adventure, but they still got one here in Japan. So cute. Look at this gigantic Triceratops. So cool. We need this at Islands of Adventure. We totally do. Whoa. Oh, this is cool. Hello. Now we have made it to the back of USJ, and how can we talk about this park without talking about Super Nintendo World, the big land here, the most popular land, the busiest land. Super Nintendo World is laid out kind of in like the back of the park, or at least the pathway to get to Super Nintendo World. You have to go down this big winding path that leads you to the land itself, kind of like the Harry Potter land here in USJ. I would say if this, comparing where it is in the land to USF, it would probably be like where the Simpsons area is, like kind of towards the back of the park, past Hollywood, past San Francisco. This land is the biggest version of Super Nintendo World currently. It's 2 different levels. It has Yoshi's Adventure, it has Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge, or over here, Mario Kart Koopa's Challenge, and eventually it will have Donkey Kong Country, where you're gonna have Donkey Kong Minecart Madness. There's so much to see and do in this land. There are 2 shops, tons and tons of coins and rings. As you can hear, this is the crown jewel of USJ, definitely the most popular area of the park. Nestled in the back, and comparing it to Universal Studios Florida, there's not really anything else like it. Ahoy mateys, it is the evening now, and we are here at a section of the park that no longer exists at Universal Studios Florida, but luckily does here in Japan. I am, of course, talking about Amity. This is where the Jaws ride is. This was the #1 on my list of rides that I was excited to see here, and let me tell you guys, it was so amazing to be able to experience this ride again. I remember the ride vividly, but the land itself, not so much, I have to admit. It's been a couple years. This land has some of the hits that you would remember from the Universal Studios Florida land. It has, of course, the shark in front of the ride. There's a sign that says, "Oh, come see historic Amity." It has like the boardwalk food area. There's like a game place as well. But this really is kind of like its own version of Amity. I remember there being a 4th of July banner that would hang at Universal Studios Florida, kind of signifying that it was always 4th of July, like the movies, and they don't really have that here at this Amity. You know, there's one spot you can kind of stand at where you look out and you can see the boat going from the unload to the load station that feels just like the old Jaws ride, and that to me is perfect enough. Even though this Amity is a little different, I am still so happy and excited that it exists, and oh, it has just been so great to do this ride on this trip. Exploring this restaurant, I just stumbled across this souvenir medallion machine. This is like their penny machines here, and I had to get a little Jaws coin. Oh, I think it's upside down. So tiny it's hard to see, but it is this design right over here. And now I got a little Jaws souvenir. Another area that is exclusive to USJ. This is right next to the Hollywood area, and this is kind of like their DreamWorks land. It's called Wonderland, but it was here first, and I'm gonna just say it, this is better than DreamWorks land, okay? I wanted to try to not compare and contrast like in that way in this video, but having the time in the Japan parks this trip has really like altered my brain chemistry in a way where I can just admit that like Japan just does a lot of things better in theme parks, and their kids' lands are no exception. This is one big mega kid land with Snoopy, Hello Kitty, Sesame Street, and there's really one thing that just makes this better than something like DreamWorks Land. It's the fact that there's actually rides that kids can ride, okay? Little kids can go on rides, and it's like things like the Flying Snoopy, which is like a Dumbo-style ride where you're flying on Snoopy's back. And Hello Kitty has an area where you can meet Hello Kitty, and Sesame Street has a whole indoor play area. They have a merry-go-round, and they have like the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life in a theme park, which is this little track, little babies driving around in cars, and the employees are just clapping them on while they drive. It's adorable. Hold on. The silver sun. Also, the soundtrack is, they're singing Shiny Happy People from REM, like a kid's Sesame Street version. People holding shiny, happy people holding shiny, happy. Okay, you're not here to watch me sing. You're here to listen to me talk about the difference between the parks. But great music, a whole bunch of kids' rides, big land. Wonderland is a very, very cool kids area, one of the best in a Universal theme park. And our last area here at USJ that has some similarities to other parks is... Actually, I'll ask you guys. Can you guys figure out what area I'm talking about behind me? The entrance is actually surprisingly low-key for as big of a land as it is. It is the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. It is Hogsmeade Village at USJ. And I'm gonna say that for the most part, the land itself is pretty identical to all the other Hogsmeades everywhere else. It's a little bit more accurate to like the California version, where like Ollivander's is on the left side of the street versus on the right side. The stores are similar to the Hollywood version, and of course, they don't have Hagrid's motorbike adventure, so that's just a big old wall where you can do some spells. But there are some differences that set this USJ Harry Potter apart from all the others, is the fact that it is so tucked away. You go down this pathway that does a really good job at getting you immersed into the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. It kind of separates you from the rest of the park. And then the coolest thing here, the fact that Hogwarts Castle is by the actual Black Lake, or like a small version of it, but they have this body of water right by the castle. They even have a bridge that you could go down, where normally in that direction at Islands of Adventure you would be going into Jurassic Park. Here you get closer to the water and you have a really, really great opportunity to take some super cool photos and videos. Forbidden Journey is actually a little bit different as well. Something that's really cool that they've gotten rid of at all the other Harry Potter rides is they actually have a castle walk. So they have a separate queue, which is normally the regular queue for the Forbidden Journey ride in Islands of Adventure, that you can actually walk through and see the castle. Harry Potter, though, is a really great land. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's pretty identical to all the other ones, but it doesn't really need to change. It's just good all around. So this is kind of cool. Over here is a spell that actually shoots fire. That's impressive. Oh, there it goes again. Over here, they have I guess a photo booth area where you could sit, and it's meant to be like you're in the Hogwarts Express, and it's closed. You can't even go in there. I'd love to take a fun picture. I got the Hogwarts Express at home. Whoa. Got a dragon coming out. Oh, look out. How is that Japanese butterbeer, Ellison?
As we would say, less poison. It tastes similar, but it's not as like stickily sweet. It feels like a light, refreshing sweet, like you want it to be.
Oh yeah, you're right. Less sweet. I feel like I haven't had a butterbeer in such a long time that this is like hitting just right. Did they only have the regular, no frozen?
They have regular and hot, that's it.
Ah, regular and hot, no frozen here in Universal Japan, which is typically my preferred version of butterbeer. But a regular butterbeer right now is hitting just right. Thank you guys for watching another VincentVision. Please, if you're looking for more Universal content like this, be sure to like and subscribe. It really does help. If you're looking to support me more, join my wonderful Patreon team. These guys help make this trip possible, and they're gonna make future amazing experiences possible as well. It's time to say goodbye to Hogwarts with the Black Lake behind me. Oh my gosh, so cool. Thank you guys for watching another Vincent Vision, and I will see you back in the USA. Bye-bye.